Hello and welcome to the Red Cassette. It's time for the return of Tech Tuesday. Yeah, don't worry, this isn't becoming a football channel. I'm more or less just making videos on stuff I'm interested in. But first of all, we have this. It's an evaporative cooler, although you will have seen it probably advertised as an air conditioning unit or a personal aircon or personal cooler. This is not air conditioning, what is happening in this box. Air conditioning uses refrigerants and it actually does the opposite of what this does, which is it dries the air out, and by doing that it puts it through really cold, a really cold grid basically, a bit like the radiator on a car, and that cools the air down. This does almost the exact opposite to that in that it actually adds moisture to the air. Which is called evaporative cooling. So this is an evaporative cooler, not an air conditioner. Some may also know these, I think sometimes in America they're actually called swamp coolers. You'll have seen big versions of them. They can be, you know, quite large. They're used in industry a lot, evaporative coolers, but this is a smaller personal device. It's obviously not going to cool a room, it's going to cool the person sat in front of it. So, how does evaporative cooling actually work? So first of all, we'll discuss that because I think that's quite important as to understanding if this product is actually any good to you. Because evaporative cooling basically puts moisture into the air, and when water evaporates, it cools down the surroundings. You'll have known it if ever you've got out of a pool. You'll feel cold because the water is evaporating off you and it's taking energy with you and it's cooling down your surroundings. That's what this does. It puts water into the air and blows it at you, so that air is cooler because it's taking on water. That's a very short explanation of how evaporative cooling works. There's a lot more science behind it, but I'm a university student that studies history and politics. Not really my area of expertise. But moving on, we'll actually talk about the device and its features. So as you can see along the front, there are 4 buttons, each have different purposes. As you can see right now, it's on, it's in mode 1, so it's speed 1, which shows up. I'll wait until it comes round. When you press like that, so that's mode 2, and you'll also be able to hear the noise probably through my microphone. And then there is mode 3. Which is quite loud. However, in terms of noise, this actually isn't that bad of a device. I can quite easily sleep with it on setting 2. Now, I am used to a fair bit of noise when I'm going to sleep because we've got a tram line running past my house and a main road. So noise is not a problem for me, but I think for most people, you will be able to sleep with it on number 1. But moving onwards, we have this button here, which turns on and off the diffuser inside it. So basically how it works is you slide the top off, you put water in the top, which it does actually have a little bit of water left in it, and that is then diffused into the air by 2 little diffusers which basically make the water look like it's fizzing. They diffuse it through and it comes out of some spouts actually inside the device. Then the air passes through this filter here, which is usually soaked in water. I've left it dry this time because it's not that cold. It's not that warm in here, so I don't really need it running properly. You soak this in water and then it takes on water from this as well as from the tank. What I tend to do with this is I tend to freeze it. So soak it, freeze it, and then when you come to actually use it, this is really, really cold and it will cool you down a lot quicker. Whether you're supposed to do that or not, I'm not sure, but one thing I did notice about this bit of sponge, it dries out quite quickly compared to other swamp cooler, evaporative coolers I've had. I once had the Chill Max Air. That one had a really good filter in it. However, overall, it wasn't as good as this one at doing its job. And then obviously the air is then passed through these ducts here, which are controllable by this wheel on the side. And then down here at the bottom, we have this drawer, which collects water in it. It's got a little bit of water in it now. It's just clever because it means you can open the top up and just deposit the water that was left in it before. The water diffusion can be in basically 3 modes, which are continuous, 5 seconds on, 5 seconds off, which is the second mode, which you can just hear it, it just cuts out. It's like, have you ever heard a gas leak? If you've heard a gas leak, that's what it sounds like. it turns on and off. I tend to have it on continuously in the night because the turning on and off tends to wake me up a bit. However, it will mean that the water tank lasts twice as long. However, the water tank in this one in particular is really, really big. It's actually surprisingly big. It'll last a good, like, 24 hours, maybe, on the go. It lasts a long time. I think it's around 330 mil, which is probably, it's the biggest one I've ever seen. Usually they're about 170 mil, but that's really big. So that lasts ages, and you can make it last even longer if you just have it on intermittent. And then the third mode is obviously, it's off. So it just uses the fan and the water that's in this sponge bit. Then moving over to there, you've got the button for the light. No, you haven't. You've got the button that makes it twizzle. So like a normal desk fan, it will actually twizzle round. You'll have seen it doing it at the start of the video. What it does is it gets to a point, it stops for a few seconds, then it swirls around again, really, really slowly actually. It's quite a nice slow movement. The one issue is the power cable around the back, which I'll show you later, is actually attached to the bit that moves rather than the base, which is a little bit annoying. And as you can see, it just rotates. But the weird thing is, if you actually just turn it off, it'll keep going, and then it'll get to a certain point, and then it'll just stop. It's weird. I think it returns to its original position is the idea. And then next to that is the light button. Now this does actually have a light on it in the tank. You'll not be able to see it now because it's too bright in here. But it's quite a nice light in the dark. It's surprisingly bright. It's about here, the LED. It lights up the whole water tank. It lights it up better when there's actually water in it to conduct. And there's two modes for that. There's like either off, obviously. There's continually where it just changes through the rainbow, and then you can actually stop it on one of the colours. So if you get to a colour that you want it to stay on, you just press the light button again and it just sticks on that colour. It's good like that. So those were the features that it has. Obviously it's got this little dial as well, which changes the direction of the air, so you can make it go up, down. You can even shut it off bizarrely, which I'm not quite sure why you're doing. That makes it very noisy. But yeah, it's so that basically if you sat below it or above it, you can direct it towards you. And another thing to mention is it's also got a temperature gauge. I'm not entirely sure how accurate that temperature gauge is. It's about right. I have another temperature gauge upstairs which tends to be a few degrees higher than this, but then again it's taking temperature from air that's coming through it, which is always going to be cooler because obviously it's a cooler. So now I've talked you through the features on the front, we'll go round to the back. Now, as you can see, there's this big fan bulge where the fan is, and there's also below it where the USB-C cable plugs in. So it's USB-C, which is really useful because obviously you get a new USB-C cable. This is the one you get with it. And it also means that it takes 5 volts, 2 amps, which is good because it means you can power it using one of these, which is a USB power bank. This is how I'm powering it right now because there isn't a USB socket near me where I'm sat doing this. So that's very good, that's very useful. It means you can take it with you camping, you can take it with you pretty much anywhere that you've got a USB power bank, you can take it with you. On a train maybe even, if you get warm on a train. Or even in the car, although to be fair, you shouldn't really need it in the car because this is evaporative cooling. Most cars have an air conditioning, which is categorically better. However, if you don't have air conditioning where you are, this is the next best thing. So let's talk about how effective this is at cooling you down. It won't work for a big room. It's not air conditioning. It's not an inbuilt evaporative cooler. It'll cool your general area, probably around 2 meters around the thing. Obviously it will cool the room down eventually. It's just it won't do it within like a human lifespan. But overall, I'm quite impressed with it. I once had a Chillmax Air that was nowhere near as good as this. I'm not entirely sure what this one's called. It's just one of those generic Chinese ones. There'll be a link to it in the description, and probably the sort of name of it will be in the title of the video. So I'm purely going off this in particular one. Quality-wise, the plastic, it's not actually that bad. It's surprisingly good. Like the magnets and the rubber on this bit, it's nice. The box that it came in was nice. Quality-wise, I can't really argue with it. It's not like just a PC fan bolted to a sponge like the Chillmax Air is. So overall quality is not that bad. It's got a nice little temperature reading on it. I managed to get it in the sale, so it was a little bit cheaper. But in terms of cooling you down, it works quite well. until it gets to around sort of 70 to 75% humidity, then it will start to lose efficiency and it won't be as good as it is when it's sort of like 20% humidity. It's nowhere near as effective, which is why you won't find this sort of cooling in tropical regions or in particularly humid areas. For example, I live in Britain. Summertime in Britain can be quite rainy. However, when it's sunny and warm, it is actually quite dry, you know, around 40% humidity, 40 to 50% humidity. So this will work in Britain. However, in America, let's say in, you know, Florida, where you will get 90% humidity, it will not work at all. It'll be basically just a fan. Because the water evaporation won't happen. It won't work because the air is saturated. It won't take any more water. So, and obviously the whole point of this is to evaporate water into the air in order to cool it. And that's not possible when you've got 90% humidity. But overall, in this country, I have found that this has worked fine. And if it goes above sort of 70% humidity, it will still work because at the end of the day, it is a fan. It will work, but it won't work as intended. But for the amount I paid for it, I'm fairly happy with it. It's a bit of a lifesaver when it gets really hot in this country because a lot of houses don't have air conditioning. So this works quite well for people who are just wanting a bit of cool air. This house is absolutely atrocious to keep heat out of. So even if you shut the windows and all the doors, it'll still get mega hot in here because we've got big windows that even if you do shut like the curtains, the heat still comes through. So something like this is very good. And it creates an air draft and it cools the air down, obviously below a certain humidity. So I am very happy with it. My major gripe with it is that the base is a little bit rickety, it's a bit wobbly on it, and I'm not quite sure whether it's supposed to be like that or not. I think that's just because it's from China, it's not going to be amazing, is it? But yeah, overall I'm very happy with it, it does the job well. And with that, I think I shall call this video to a close. So, if you have enjoyed the video, thank you very much. Be sure to like the video and subscribe for more. This is just a channel that I like to do. I like to make videos that on things that I'm interested in. So, be it football, be it technology, be it cameras. You know, I make videos about everything. So, hopefully, there should be something that'll tickle your fancy. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in the next one in a bit.